Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're looking at something literally monumental in the world of metabolic health. Eli Lilly just dropped their phase 3 clinical trial data for a brand new compound called Retatrutide, and honestly, the weight loss numbers coming out of this study are unlike almost anything recorded in medical history. Okay, let's dive into this and look at the numbers that are completely changing what we thought was biologically possible. We have a lot of ground to cover today. We'll start by establishing the current baseline, then look at how retatrutide operates as a triple agonist, unpack those record-breaking numbers from the TRIUMPH-4 trial, analyze the critical safety data, and finally wrap up with the FDA and future access outlook. Section 1. The current baseline. To really appreciate how disruptive this new data is, we first have to agree on what success currently looks like in obesity treatment. And this brilliantly illustrates our current heavyweight champions from the recent SURMOUNT-5 trial. You've got semaglutide, widely known as Wegovy, delivering an average of 13.7% body weight loss over 72 weeks. Then there's tirzepatide, or Zepbound, pushing that boundary up to 20.2%. Up until today, that 20% mark was kind of seen as the absolute ceiling of what these therapies could do. Keep that benchmark in your head as we move forward. Section 2. Retatrutide, the triple agonist. This new compound operates on a fundamentally different biological level than the medications we just talked about. See, semaglutide targets one hormone receptor. Tirzepatide targets two. Retatrutide, it's a triple agonist. It's a single, highly engineered molecule that simultaneously activates three distinct hormone receptors: GIP, GLP-1, and glucagon. Adding that third receptor, glucagon, is basically like stomping on the metabolic gas pedal. It isn't just suppressing your appetite, it's actively increasing your energy expenditure. This three-pronged approach is the biological engine behind the insane data we're about to look at.
Section 3. TRIUMPH-4. Record-breaking numbers. Let's move to and see how this builds into actual clinical outcomes.
Take a second to process this number: 28.7%. In the TRIUMPH-4 trial, patients on the highest dose of retatrutide, 12 milligrams, lost an average of 28.7% of their total body weight over 68 weeks. That is an average loss of 71.2 pounds. Remember that 20% ceiling from tirzepatide? Retatrutide absolutely shattered it, and in even less time. And just to give you a control metric, the placebo group in this trial lost just 2.1%. This is a staggering level of efficacy that approaches the kind of weight loss we typically only see with invasive bariatric surgery. Breaking this down, we see a super clear dose-dependent response. While placebo hovered at that negligible 2.1% loss, patients on the 9 milligram dose lost 26.4%, peaking at that 28.7% for the 12 milligram dose. But, higher efficacy always comes with a biological toll. Discontinuation rates, meaning people dropping out due to adverse events, also went up with the dose, climbing from 4% in the placebo group all the way to 18.2% on 12 milligrams. Before we just get fixated on weight as a number on a scale, we really need to understand what this means for a patient's actual day-to-day life. Dr. Kenneth Schuster from Eli Lilly summed it up perfectly, noting that people with obesity and knee osteoarthritis often live with pain and restricted mobility. See, this TRIUMPH-4 trial wasn't just measuring weight. It specifically enrolled people suffering from osteoarthritis of the knee. This is about restoring mobility, slashing chronic pain, and fundamentally changing someone's quality of life. And the impact on that pain was absolutely massive. Patients on the 9 milligram dose of retatrutide experienced a 75.8% reduction in knee osteoarthritis pain on the standardized WOMAC scale. The 12 milligram dose was right there too, at 74.3%. In fact, over 1 out of every 8 patients treated actually became completely free of knee pain by the end of the trial. This proves the drug works far beyond aesthetics. It structurally unburdens the body. So the crucial point is that retatrutide isn't just a weight loss drug, it's a profound metabolic reset. Beyond the scale and the joints, the trial tracked secondary cardiovascular benefits, and the results are fantastic. It systematically lowered non-HDL cholesterol, it reduced triglycerides, and significantly lowered hsCRP, which is a major marker for systemic inflammation. Plus, patients on the highest dose saw their systolic blood pressure drop by a full 14 points, just an across-the-board win for metabolic health markers. Section 4, the catch, analyzing safety. Because in clinical science, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Let's pivot objectively and look at the complications that popped up. While most side effects were the typical gastro issues we've come to expect, nausea, diarrhea, a new, rather unexpected safety signal emerged in this phase 3 trial, a condition called dysesthesia. This is essentially an abnormal sense of touch. It can make normal, everyday sensations against the skin feel weird, uncomfortable, or even painful. It's a neurological symptom, one you sometimes see in conditions like diabetes or MS, but here it was clearly triggered by the medication. What's really notable here is how starkly dose-dependent the side effect was. In the placebo group, only 0.7% reported it. On the 9 milligram dose, it jumped to 8.8%, and on the 12 milligram dose, almost 21% of patients experienced this abnormal skin sensation. Now, Eli Lilly noted these events were generally mild and rarely led to people dropping out, but analysts were definitely hoping for a cleaner safety profile. The FDA is for sure going to be watching this one closely.
But honestly, here is perhaps the most fascinating detail hidden in that safety data. Remember those dropout rates we talked about earlier? One of the specific reasons cited for some of those discontinuations was perceived excessive weight loss. Just think about that for a second. The speed and the sheer strength of the fat reduction were actually too intense for some patients, particularly those who entered the trial with a lower starting BMI. The drug worked so well and so fast that it became uncomfortable. That is a wildly unusual reason for a clinical trial dropout, and it speaks volumes about the sheer potency of this triple agonist.
Section 5, FDA and future outlook. So we have unprecedented efficacy paired with some very unique safety signals. Let's look at the timeline and the rather complicated future of how patients will actually get their hands on these therapies.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that TRIUMPH-4 is really just the tip of the iceberg. Eli Lilly launched this massive program back in 2023, enrolling over 5,800 patients. We just got the osteoarthritis data right now in December 2025, but look ahead to 2026. There are 7 additional phase 3 readouts expected for Retatrutide, covering obesity, sleep apnea, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular outcomes. We are about to be hit with an absolute tidal wave of data that will likely cement this drug's path to FDA approval. But FDA approval is just hurdle number 1. Access is hurdle number 2. Right now, thanks to massive drug shortages, millions of people have been accessing older GLP-1 therapies affordably through compounding pharmacies. However, those pharmaceutical supply chains are normalizing. Furthermore, starting in April 2026, the FDA is initiating major shifts in peptide reclassification, pulling many of these compounds off the board for compounding pharmacies. So, while drugs like Retatrutide are absolute marvels of modern science, this changing regulatory stance means the days of affordable compounded peptide alternatives might be rapidly coming to an end.
Which leaves us with a deeply important question to consider. As the scientific efficacy of drugs like Retatrutide reaches totally unprecedented new heights, will regulatory shifts, high costs, and supply constraints leave the ultimate apex disruptor out of reach for the people who need it most? It's an incredible time for metabolic science for sure, but the logistics of bringing these miracles to the masses, that will be the true test of the next decade. Thank you so much for joining me today to break down this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.